What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about Pirates 5. I've wanted to do this for quite a while, right? I've been promoting this, kind of teasing that I was going to do this for the longest time, and we're going to celebrate its 3-year anniversary. We're going to celebrate Pirates 5's 3-year anniversary by going back and kind of doing a re-review, a look back at the movie. So I really don't have any expectations of what to expect for myself from this video, but I do want to review it. I had watched it again. And I'm going to go into the backstory there and go into how I feel about this movie now. So think of it as a re-review, things like that. As things for Pirates 6 continue to happen, we're going to continue to cover it. I greatly appreciate all of you guys that have supported all these videos. You guys truly, truly rock. So let's do this. Let's get to celebrating. So obviously, 3 years ago today was a massive day. Specifically, I won't spend too much time talking about this because I think you guys probably want to hear about the movie, right? But just talking about it from a channel perspective, this movie is one of the most important things, honestly, that's happened to like us as a channel, me as a person. Truly, I mean, is it the most revolutionary movie and is it the best movie ever? No, but what it meant to the channel back then, 3 years ago, is just absolutely insane. And we've had people that are still on the channel now that have watched us back 3 years ago, whether it be when the movie came out or a couple months before when we did the Pirates community series. And we had never seen anything like that, Tyler and I. And I really am thankful for you guys. There's just not even enough words I could possibly use to say how thankful I am. So I feel like, when I talk about this movie, so let's go into this movie, I feel like there's always going to be a gloss over it from the experience of leading into it. Really, again, there's not been almost anything, movie or game related. And, I talk about so many different things on this channel, all these different games, all these different movies. And again, like leading into Pirates 5, that is just so special. I think it is the most special thing, the lead up to it that we've had. And again, even the coverage of when the movie came out. So I feel like in that way, the movie is always going to maybe be a little better to me than it really deserves. Okay, now let's just get really controversial here, and let's go for the negatives first. I actually don't think it's controversial because I think the people that watch and you guys that are watching right now, we're all in the same kind of boat as of Pirates 5. I think there is a difference of opinions there for sure, but I think for the most part we can agree on some things. But there are things that I noticed this time around and have maybe realized, or just because it's been so long. I have not watched this movie in like 2 years. I watched it when it first came out. I think I went to the theaters to watch it 3 or 4 times, and then I watched it when it came out on Blu-ray. Like that day, I got it and I watched it, and I have not watched it since that day, probably more than 2 years ago. So watching it again, I'll say from the criticism point of view, there is some things wrong with it. The Jack thing, we've talked about it in the past. I think knowing that he's going to act the way he is makes it slightly better. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. With that being said, also, because it's been so long since I've watched a Pirates movie in general, I feel like, again, I maybe will give this movie a bit more credit than it deserves, because look, then when I think about Pirates movies, I think that does weaken this movie. But if you take this movie on its own as, honestly, a soft reboot, right? Bringing them back, but introducing new characters, I think it does everything it sets out to do. I truly do believe that. I really do. When you compare it to other Pirates movies, besides 4, because I think it's just miles better than 4, it does seem a bit weaker. I don't know if I like it as much as Pirates 1. Definitely it's not as good as 2 and 3. And we had said that even back then. I think it, maybe there was some debate on, well, could it be better than like Dead Man's Chest? I think that's thrown out the window. I think time has hurt the movie a little bit. But again, not comparing it to a Pirates movie, I think it's pretty solid. Comparing it to a Pirates movie, it's a lot smaller in scale, which I actually like. We'll talk about that in the liking thing. But I can see why people may have some, negative things to say about that. My biggest thing, so besides Jack just not being Jack Sparrow, and again, I think it's a little bit better when you know that that's what you're going to get. I think you can kind of surround yourself in I don't know, like the wackiness that he is in this, but not like the general, Jack wackiness, right? But like their approach to making him drunk and making him weird and making him have a little bit more humor, but in a different way than he's had in past movies. I think you can get behind it a little bit. Not entirely, and I'll never support what they did to him in this movie. And there are some okay spots, right? We've talked about that, and I'll get to that in this video, but definitely Jack is a big weakness. But I would say, flat out honestly, the biggest weakness this movie has is Salazar. When watching it, I just can't get behind him. I think I had said he's easily better than Blackbeard, and I think I still agree with that. But to be honest with you, I took Blackbeard more seriously than Salazar, and that could be one of the biggest things that's changed in my mind about this movie over the years. Is when I first saw it, I didn't mind Salazar all that much. I really didn't. We had said, like, I hate his motivation. Why is he the villain, right? And we talked about it. Davy Jones, I think, has the perfect reason, and everything about him is just amazing. And I want that. I want a reason why bad guys are bad. Not just in Pirates movies, but in any movie. Salazar, firstly, flat out doesn't have it. He really doesn't. And I don't know, just the Spanish thing he's got going for him doesn't go for him. I really like the hombre when he says that and he's got like the accent. Like, I just can't take him seriously, which is weird because I will also admit and agree that he is menacing. Like, you take him seriously in a fact that he does not care about eliminating pirates, like about killing pirates, right? Like, when he taps his sword. I like that scene. I think that scene's really cool where he's like, hey, talk all you want, but I'm just going to be destroying your crew like throughout the whole thing. Like, I like that. And he is menacing in the fact that he's a threat to a lot of people, right? Like, he really has no problem taking out pirates. But everything besides that, he's just weak. The design for the pirates, or for his ghost crew overall, it's okay, but I don't know. It's just not. They're like half human. Like, they're not even, half of them aren't even floating there, right? I don't know. I really don't honestly know how I'm trying to say this, but going from Davy Jones to him, I just can't do it. And I don't know what's changed in the 3 years, but I think in a lot of ways, he's still better than Blackbeard, but honestly, in more ways than I thought, he's worse. He's worse in a lot of ways than Blackbeard is, and I never thought I would say something like that, but I didn't see that back then. I think, honestly, again, out of all the things, he is by a mile the worst part of this movie. One final thing in terms of the negatives, and I'll get into all the positives, or maybe just my impressions of it. One of the last things is Henry. I know I've been tooting the horn that Henry and Karina are awesome, and I love them, and they're so great. I think when they're together, they're really, really good. I think they needed to have put them together a little bit more, and all the scenes they have bouncing back and forth with each other is very solid. Karina on her own, or also, I guess, conversing with other people, I think is also extremely, extremely good. Henry on his own, I don't like as much as I thought I did. Like at the beginning when he's sailing and he disobeys orders and all that stuff, I don't like him on his own as much as I thought. He's still a good character. I still always stand by. I think he is a very solid addition. Again, him and Karina work very, very well. Even him and Jack in a lot of ways, even though Jack isn't, I don't know, like we're not getting the full Jack Sparrow experience in this movie, right? And I feel like that may have even helped. Like if they gave us the full Jack experience, it could have been really cool. Even him and Jack, I think, are solid enough. I just don't like Henry on his own as much as I thought I did, okay? So those are pretty much the negatives. The positives, look, this movie does have a lot of positives. The emotional standout scenes, and granted, there are not many of them, but they are still there now. I truly believe that, and I believe myself when I'm telling that to you guys. Every scene with Barbossa is literally perfect. These directors did some stuff, and they didn't do it all perfectly. In fact, a lot of it they didn't do it perfectly, but I love their camera work. I talked about that 3 years ago. I love how the movie is shot. I love how it's like literally just, and I mean, that's not even necessarily the directors, right? But I think the touch that they gave, and yes, again, the movie is very much smaller scale. Like everything is smaller, really. And you know what? I kind of like that. Does it seem like a side adventure? At times it does, but it doesn't feel like nearly as much of a side thing that 4 felt. I really felt like Pirates 4 is literally like a side quest, whereas the first 3 were like main quests, right? I think 5, for the most part, is like a main thing. And again, specifically like for Barbossa, the director, like they knew what they were doing with him. He is such a great character with such a great storyline that goes through every single one of these movies. Truly, what Jeffrey Rush did for this character is literally insane because he is so good. And I don't know why they made Jack so different when they literally kept the spirit and the soul of what Barbossa is intact. Because he's had growth. He's absolutely had growth, and he's had different things, happen to him. But like literally, like his base personality is like it's still him, and it's so great to see. And I don't know why they changed that about Jack. Again, there are some shining moments where Jack is good, but no matter who he's with, literally, no matter when he's with Jack, it's honestly really great. It's so great always to see those two together. I've always said it with Pirates 4, the Jack and Barbossa scenes are by a mile the best scenes in the movie. Anytime those two are together, it's amazing. And honestly, even though Jack isn't Jack in this movie, they work well against each other. When when Barbossa figures out that Karina's his daughter, and they're talking with Jack, yeah, Jack isn't exactly how I would have wanted him to be in that situation, but it's still good. And so I'll give Johnny Depp and Jack credit there. And again, like their interaction there is perfect. The ending, obviously, when Barbossa sacrifices himself and Jack gives that one looking down when he's holding onto the chain, that was a really good moment. But specifically talking about Barbossa, so good. And the journey he had in this movie, even going all the way back to like the Sansa part, which I really like her, right? We all like her. It's just they didn't use her nearly enough. But everything that he did, they even gave him like a really short sword fight, which was really cool to see as well, right? I've always liked that little battle. It's very, very small. It doesn't happen for very long, but I do like it. And that is a problem. I guess I should say that with Jack. I'll get to that in 1 second. That is actually one negative thing, one very small thing that actually did like affect me for a very long time when I was watching the movie. Like I really hammered it into my head for some reason. But the line, "What do I mean to you, treasure?" that is probably one of the most perfect lines ever said in the Pirates films. We said that 3 years ago. I still think that now. The music, the atmosphere of that moment, catching her seeing it, them saying it, and then him sacrificing himself for her is absolutely perfect. And again, even Karina, I think she's so great. I really, really do. On her own, she stands up very well. And so like the ending scene is amazing. I still think the entire scene when he's talking to her and he's figuring out that she's his daughter, I think it's just, I really think that could be my favorite scene. This is big, by the way, me saying this, because I love Pirates 3 to death, and there's so many amazing scenes there. I may like that scene the best out of any scene in the entire Pirates franchise. I truly do. Just something about when he says like Karina, and then and she goes and talks about her father, and he says like, "I'm a captain, like I know my way around the stars," or whatever he says, and he just has that look, and he walks away and he looks like defeated and like just so sad and like sick to himself, right? And he's just standing there like that. And like there's a music, the music cue in the background is so perfect. I just love it. I really don't. It's not even that big of a. I mean, it is. It is actually a pretty turning point in Pirates 5 and for Barbossa, but it's not the biggest scene ever created, right? And it's not, especially in terms of like set pieces and stuff like that. It's not all that big, but it has such an emotional hit to it. And I think Jeffrey Rush 1000% sells it. But again, movie as a whole, the adventure they go through, Henry and Karina trying to saving Will in terms of Henry's purpose. It's solid. This is a very solid movie that I really had fun with. I think some of the jokes were funnier now than they were back then. Again, I think having your expectations set on Jack is a really big part of that. If you know what to expect, I think you can have more fun with it. Now, should you need to do that to have fun with this movie and to respect it more or anything like that? No, I don't. I mean, that is a problem with the movie. But I do think that if you set your expectations with Jack, it is overall better. You have a better feel for the humor. Again, I really like how it's shot. I really like how it looks. The music is still top notch. I really do believe that. the one small thing I do want to just quickly say, and the ending with Davy Jones, I mean, that honestly is incredible. And I remember myself sitting in the theater, just my jaw literally dropping from my mouth when I heard the stomping, and I was like, that's Davy Jones. Like, that sounds a whole lot like him. And then you see his shadow, and it's like, dear Jesus, they did it. Like, they're doing it, right? That still hits me now just as much as it hit me back then. But one small thing is, they did a lot of stuff to Jack that I don't like. One thing I also don't like about Jack in this is that they removed any skill he has with sword fighting. Now, he's a skilled in terms of like a captain, right? Like, he knows how to sail a ship. He knows when to make orders and stuff. Even though, I mean, he doesn't do it all that often, but like, we kind of know as an audience that he is capable. And they show the younger Jack, which, by the way, I the more I see it, the more I really don't like that. I don't like that that's another thing. I keep thinking of, see, the negative of this movie is that you keep thinking of more negatives the longer you talk about it, which is bad. But I don't like how they decided to write their own history on this movie. That is a major, major thing I probably should have said at the beginning. I don't like that they decided, these two new directors that had nothing to do with how Pirates started, how Jack started. I don't like that they got to choose how he got everything associated with him. All of his uniform, all of it, all of his tokens, literally how he got his freaking last name. I don't like any of that. Like, they shouldn't have been the ones. They should have known, too, that we're not the ones to decide this. We don't need to tell you how Jack got all this stuff and even got his last name. We don't need to be. In fact, we shouldn't, because we're not, we're continuing the story, but we didn't start it. You know what I mean? Maybe that's like egotistical of me to say, but I really don't think it was their place to do something like this, and that's a big part. But see, same thing, like along the lines of that is they added things that they don't need to add. They subtracted things that they don't need to subtract. The sword fighting, the lack of sword fighting, the lack of ship battles, that's budget. I truly do believe that's because of budget. That's even maybe because of the cast getting older, like the base cast, right? So I understand why they did some of that, but there are such things as stunt doubles, and they've done it before. And when Jack is jumping along, like, the cannons of the ships, like, running away, basically, from Salazar and, like, the mast of his ship, and then when Jack is fighting Salazar for, like, 4 seconds inside the ship, and he's pretty much just blocking, and granted, Salazar hits harder. Like, if we're going to start analyzing the sword combat, Salazar really is aggressive, and he hits very hard. Like, he literally swings the sword with a lot of force. So, like, that's interesting. Like, he literally has a different kind of sword fighting to him. But when did Jack become incapable of doing, and you could say that for the whole movie, right? When did he become incapable of doing anything? He really can't do anything in this movie but make jokes, because for the most part, he's being saved by others, and he really doesn't do anything on his own, right? But that is the base negative thing about Jack in this movie, besides the fact that he's not acting like him. But like the sword combat, that really, to me, that stands out, because when he's fighting, like, he's blocking, but he's not doing a really good job, and then Salazar disarms him within, again, like 4 swings that Jack blocks in the ship, and then outside the ship he does it a couple times there too. But like, he went one-on-one with Davy Jones for a long time. He fought Will, on the wheel, right? So like, when did he lose the ability to use a sword? And even in 4, although like they use a lot of stunt doubles, especially in like when he's escaping in 4, like when he finds out Barbossa isn't on his team anymore, he's doing like acrobatics and he's doing all this stuff running around. Like, when did he forget? It's been 5 years since 4. When did he forget to use a sword? So again, that's not the biggest. I feel like the bigger thing to talk about when it comes to sword combat in terms of the 5th movie is the lack of it, that there isn't a lot of sword fighting and there isn't a lot of ship combat, right? And when they do sword fighting, it's mainly like Henry. Even at the very end, like, I get Jack doesn't want to hurt Henry, but he's only dodging, right? He doesn't really, and you never, actually, if you think about it, I don't even remember a scene where for a fact that's Johnny Depp with the sword fighting. Now, I don't know how much he did it in the past. Maybe there's ways of me knowing that, but I haven't looked it up. But in terms of 5, you really only see the back of him ever doing something. And especially with Henry, when he's doing all the acrobatic dodging like at the end, that's not him. And even with the Salazar part, I don't know. I know that there's behind the scenes of him like on the cannon running around. So, and he does have a sword in his hand. So maybe, that part is Johnny Depp, but you know what I mean? So like for the most part, it's not even him, and he's not doing much at all. And when I see that scene, I think of Pirates 3 when he's fighting Davy Jones on the top of the ship, and it's my favorite, maybe besides the Barbossa thing, that is my favorite scene of all time, when the camera spins around it and he's fighting Davy Jones, even though it's a quick thing, but it's fast. It's a faster tempo, sword fight, and I love it. And Jack fights a lot in 3, just generally, right? So when did he forget to do all that kind of stuff? Again, is it because Johnny Depp is older? Well, yeah, I guess, but you could use stunt doubles, and if you can't do it, then maybe that's the time to stop, right? You know what I mean? So it's interesting. I have so much love for this movie. This movie is so special to me. There are so many really good moments. I truly do believe that. I know I didn't talk about a lot of the scenes in them. They just, in my opinion, just because I didn't talk about them doesn't mean I have some hugely negative thing to say about them. I think any scene that you maybe didn't hear me talk about, unless I forgot them, which I'm sure I forgot scenes, but any scenes that you didn't hear me talk about in this video, I think they just help. Just put them all in the category of they were solid and they helped push the movie forward. Because I do generally believe that for most of the scenes in this movie that I haven't mentioned or haven't grouped up in like a Barbossa or Karina scene, I think they're all, at the worst, they're fine. There are things throughout the movie, him giving away his compass and that somehow setting Salazar free, which is just the dumbest thing in the world. There were some pretty dumb, bad things in this movie. But as a whole, I still believe this. I 1000% believe it got the movie franchise on the right track. 4 took it right off the rails. I think 5 brought it back. I truly, truly do. I think that if 5 happened again and they fixed the main issues that we've all had with it, it would maybe be the second or first best Pirates movie of all time. I truly do believe that. If they remade 5 and they fixed Salazar and they made the proper Jack, the Pirates 1 through 3 Jack, even 4, because I've talked about it, I love Jack in 4. So if they did that, and all these additional things, if they had some more sword fighting, if they had some more ship combat, I think it could have been the strongest movie. I truly do, because the weaknesses of this movie really do bring it down, but at its core, there is something there. It is something very, very special there. So I know this went on for a long time. This is one of the longest videos and the longest video I've made in a very, very long time, but I get very passionate about this movie. It was really great to watch this movie again after, again, so long, and I was waiting for the big moments. I was waiting to see if they still had the same emotional hit on me that they had back then. They do. The Barbossa death still emotionally hits me. It really, really does. And that honestly is a testament to the movie. Like, that's a good thing. That's very, very good that the movie can still do that. Now, I haven't watched it all that much. I've only watched it maybe 5-6 times in all. I've watched Pirates 3 like 20-30 times, right? But just generally, Pirates 5, I think, still stands up. It makes me want Pirates 6 so, like, watching it and then seeing the ending, I really need Pirates 6. Okay, I really, really do. And we've talked about it for the longest time. But then if you rewatch 5, I think you'll want 6 even more. So guys, let me know in the comments below. What do you think? 3-year birthday of Pirates 5. What'd you think about the movie? What was your memories of it back then? What do you think they need to do for a Pirates 6 to continue for Pirates 5? All that stuff, let me know in the comments below. As always, make sure you guys are subscribed and have that bell icon turned on. And also, as always, if anything happens Pirates related, I'll absolutely cover it on the channel. Anything Pirates 6, anything Pirates spinoff, reboot, anything like that, I'll absolutely cover it. You guys rock. Thank you so much, especially for those. I mean, you guys are all awesome, and even the people that have recently joined, like over the last couple months, I'm really, really happy to have you. I truly, truly am. Especially, though, for those that have watched for years, and you know who you are. Those that have watched since Pirates 5 was coming out, you guys are awesome. You guys truly, truly are. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and helping us grow back then, because this channel would not be where it is right now if it wasn't for you guys 3 years ago, okay? And that'll always mean so, so much to me, okay? Thank you again for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next video.